everyone, welcome to another Ace Take, and today we're going to talk about standing in your knowing. I'm here at this beautiful park in eastern Tennessee. It's the beginning of 2023, and I just feel like it's our year. I really do. I feel very confident about 2023 because of all the healing we've done in the last 3 years specifically. And as of late, I've just felt very good about myself, and not in feeling myself and all those weird superficial lenses that we would attribute that comment to, but more so, I just feel good being me. And I feel like for the first time, I don't have this imposter syndrome that has been muddying a lot of my pursuits over the last several years of my life. And because I've gone forth and made it real for myself over the last couple years, now when I speak, I stand in my knowing, and there's this certain vibe about it. There's this certain confidence that now I truly am very grateful for. There are 3 things you can do to stand in your knowing. First thing to do is trust your vibes. Second thing to do is figure out what's yours and what isn't inside your head. And the third thing we do is removing negativity through being heart-centered. Okay, so the first step. First step is trusting your vibes. A lot of times we'll trust everything and anything outside of ourselves. We don't trust ourselves. We don't trust that we know anything. We don't trust that we could get it right the first time. We don't trust that we can do it without having to prepare exhaustively in order to get ready for said event, said accomplishment or goal or feat. But in reality, if you just trust your vibes, you just trust what it is your inner knowing is telling you, what it is that inside your heart, inside your chest, inside your body is right, if you trust that, oh my goodness, everything comes alive. And that's the whole key in this thing. A lot of us want to bring about new earth. A lot of us want our missions and our purposes. But what if we're already on our mission and our purpose? What if new earth is already here? We're not trusting our vibes about it. So the key here is to sit with yourself and figure out what's yours and what isn't. In order to best trust your vibes, you got to first figure out what's coming into your purview, what's coming into your energetic field that isn't even yours. We are multidimensional beings, which means that we could pick up the energy and consciousness of those around us. That old statement, what do you expect me to read my mind? Well, in a way, we are kind of getting to that point where we can read our minds. We can telepathically communicate, and in reality, only 7% of communication is done verbally anyway. And so by sitting with ourselves and figuring out what's ours and what isn't, allows for us to not make choices that goes outside our vibration, our frequency, or what feels right inside of us. And the way we can do this is, now that you're sitting in your knowing, now that you're sitting with yourself, start to really understand who you are in that now moment. What is right for you? What feels good for you? And what are the other thoughts, the other noise coming into your head, coming into your field that's causing you to feel less than who you really are? Because that's all nonsense. And generally speaking, we can pick up the anxieties of others around us, which means that a lot of times that we feel bad about something, it's not actually us feeling bad about it. It's us reflecting or mirroring inside of ourselves how others feel about a certain situation, person, place, or thing. And by sitting with ourselves in meditation or prayer and getting quiet with ourselves and breathing and grounding that energy, we're able to start to decipher the thoughts that are ours versus the thoughts that aren't. And what I've also learned is that the health of our vessel determines this a lot too. So how we're taking care of ourselves, how we're listening to ourselves, the self-care we're employing, the self-love, are we giving ourselves effective attention, which is affection? Are we giving ourselves that time to ourselves just to be without distraction? The more that we take care of our vessels, the more that we put our focus into this human experience that we're living for ourselves, the less the human will start to make noise that starts to muddy all the other things we're trying to do. So if you're really about doing something and you can't bring yourself to do it for some reason, whatever it is, making a video, writing a blog, starting an Etsy page, doing something for yourself, if you can't bring yourself to do that, then you haven't spent enough time with yourself. You're neglecting yourself. You're projecting externally what it is that you need to come within to find. And then the third and final step to standing in our knowing and trusting it is getting heart-centered. It's removing negativity through staying heart-centered. And a lot of times we spend it in our heads. And again, the health of our vessel determines if we're going to spend most of our time in our head or most of the time in our heart. If we're inflamed, we're in our head. If we're sick, we're in our head. If we're diseased, we're in our head. If we're anxious, we're in our head. If we're depressed, we're in our heads. Moving from your head to your heart is the longest 12 inches you'll ever travel. However, it's not impossible. And the more that I spend time in my heart now, as it opens, as I open myself to love, as I open myself to opportunity, as I open myself to connection, the more that I'm able to truly be. And again, these 3 steps play on one another. Now that I'm heart-centered, it's easy for me to trust my vibes, which is then easier for me to figure out what's mine and what isn't. And so now it's this positive feedback loop, a spiral of increase, a spiral of expansion that allows us to stay centered in ourselves. And another way to stay heart-centered is to create a foundation, a routine, right? A spiritual routine, a self-care routine, something that keeps you balanced so that when you're riding the real high highs and low lows of life, if you build that foundation, your high highs, your lows won't be so low. And if you stop setting expectations and you stop expecting things to happen in the construct in your head, then you'll bring that even up lower. So then now you're just riding that 0 point and barely moving from up or down, which then you don't go into these crushing depressions or these times of just so much energy and then burnout. The whole point of standing in our knowing is for longevity and sustainability. We already have come into this body, into this form, into this life with the ability and capability to do whatever it is that we desire. And so by standing in our knowing, through being heart-centered, by figuring out what's ours and what isn't, and trusting our vibes, there's nothing that we can't get through, and there's nothing that we can't overcome. Because at the end of the day, it's fear that we fear more than anything. And it's the fear of past failures, past traumas, and past events that make us believe that that's going to be our future now moments. But it's not. Especially if we come back to self, especially if we take the time to spend with ourselves in meditation, reflection, thought, prayer, and to truly be at peace. Because that's all we really want in reality. That's all our vessels truly want. We are not these bodies. We are multidimensional fractals of God that have been there, done that, and we are now in form guiding this human through the experience we are having. And it's symbiotic. And if we're not doing our part to take care of ourselves, then the experience we're creating for ourselves will be hellacious. But if we do take care of ourselves, if we choose compassion, if we choose to stay heart-centered and not pay attention to the noise that's coming into our purview or into our head or into the quantum computer that's picking up everything around us, if we don't choose to do that, then we will create heaven on earth for ourselves. And if one person creates heaven, then 2 people can create heaven, and then all of us can create heaven, and then new earth is here. So thank you so much for listening to me today. Again, this is Ace with Standing in Your Knowing, and I hope you have a wonderful day, an even better evening, and I'll talk to you again sometime soon. Take care, and goodbye.